Introducing the National Black Golf Hall of Fame Class of 2011, Joe Louis Barrow, Jr. Question: can the son of an American icon escape the shadow of his famous father and live his own life? Joe Louis Barrow, Jr. has done just that by blazing his own trail in business and the golf industry. Perhaps the legacy of his father, the great boxer, American hero, philanthropist, and golf enthusiast, Joe Louis, aka the Brown Bomber, left an indelible mark of service to the less fortunate. Rather than trying to escape the shadow cast by his famous father, Joe Louis Barrow, Jr. embraced it, published a book about his famous father, and then took a position of leadership with the First Tee, America's premier junior golf program that introduces underserved children to the game of golf and its principles.
From elementary school and beyond, the First Tee positively influences the behavior of students and participants, helping them gain confidence to discover the leader within.
The First Tee has actually played a major role in me going away to college. Before I joined the First Tee, I was actually one of those shy, timid little girls. But after going through the life skill lessons, I actually became more confident in myself.
Ryan Johnson has gone from hitting golf balls in a watermelon field to playing great golf with scores in the 70s. While his golf scores were going down, his grades were going up. Ryan has gone from a D student to an A student.
Kids have so much peer pressure now, and it's so easy for young boys to be pulled into the wrong direction and the negatives in life. But First Tee keeps him away from those negatives.
I've been playing for First Tee for about 3 years, and in the best 3 years of my life because I love golf.
With a career that has spanned 40 years, Barrow has found his calling leading the First Tee program since the year 2000 to impact the lives of young people by providing programs that build character, instill life-enhancing values, and promote healthy choices through the game of golf. The First Tee has impacted more than 3.5 million participants in 50 states, 3,400 elementary schools, and 4 international locations.
I was asked the question of when are we going to produce the next Tiger Woods when I first joined the First Tee. And I was on a TV program, and fortunately with me was Earl Woods, Tiger's father. And before I could get the answer out, Earl says, "No, wait a minute. It took me 20 years to create a Tiger Woods. It's going to give these programs some time." And so we're just 11 years old at the First Tee. I think that eventually in the next 10 years or so, you're going to see some of our young people gravitate to the highest accomplishments in the game defined by the PGA Tour, the LPGA Tour. With that being said, everyone knows golf is a tough game. It's going to take not only skill level, but the mental tenacity, the techniques, etc. And so we just need to create a greater pool. I do think that the golf industry can help in that process. I think we can identify young people from diverse backgrounds with great talent. I think we can move those young people to some of the golf coaches and some of the academies so that they can focus on their technique, understand the discipline it takes, so that they can then make the decision whether they want to start down that career path that will ultimately get them to the PGA or the LPGA tours. I think the golf industry can do that if the golf industry clearly wants to be successful and by defining success by young people of diverse backgrounds who make it to the tours.
As the poet Rudyard Kipling wrote in his great work, If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that is in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. Joe Louis Barrow, Jr. has become that man. For his dedication to the youth and the game, and demonstrating commitment to advancing African American youth in golf, the National Black Golf Hall of Fame is honored to add the name Joe Louis Barrow, Jr. to its distinguished list of inductees. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Joe Louis Barrow, Jr.
Well, good evening. I'm not an academic, so my notes are not so long. Well, it's an honor, it's a privilege to be here tonight. Dr. Sinnette, Rose, congratulations. I'm honored and privileged to be inducted in 2011 with you. To the board of directors who elected me to this wonderful Hall of Fame, I say thank you. I really am very humbled by this level of recognition. Yes, I was introduced to the game of golf very early by my father. Every now and then you see this picture of me trying to tee up a golf ball, and my father's in the background, as is Ted Rhodes. I remember when that picture was being taken, and I tried to get the ball on the tee several times, and finally my father reached over and said, "This is how you do it," because I could never get the ball on the tee. That picture just keeps coming up, and I'm wondering why it can't just go away. As you know, my father loved the game of golf. I was introduced when I was about 4 or 5. I remember playing golf with my father at Pipe Apiece, the only place that blacks could play in Chicago. I remember how much he loved the game, and as many of you know, I've said often, I was and got as close to my father as I ever did because of the golf course. When I was growing up, my parents were divorced. My father would come to take my sister and I to lunch or dinner, and I could never understand why everybody wanted an autograph, because it was just my father. But when we were on the golf course, no autographs, no other people, it was just the two of us. And that's where I understood who he was, what he meant, and more importantly, he asked me questions about who I was and where I wanted to go. And he provided me with a level of understanding. Certainly we talked about the fights, the Smaling fights, the Con fights, but it was really that intimacy on the golf course that made the difference in terms of our relationship. So I'm very, very honored to be here, particularly 25 years after my father was inducted to the same Hall of Fame. You can imagine when a son is able to walk with his father in this kind of setting, and clearly this is the only Hall of Fame that I could ever be with my father. The other one, there's no chance. This means a great deal to me, personally, because of my father and because of all the individuals, as Rose indicated and Dr. Sinnette indicated, have come before us who have really paved the way to make sure that blacks could play the game of golf and enjoy the game of golf. It does make a difference in one's life. All of us are very different because golf has been in our lives. We're very different people because of the golf and the way we focused, the people we understand, the friendships we've created, the relationships that we have. I remember growing up in the south side of Chicago, and I played on the University of Chicago Lab School's high school team, and I remember once going out to Jackson Park, and my stepfather said, "You know, that wasn't too long ago when we couldn't play Jackson Park." I remember that we couldn't play that golf course, which was a public golf course in the south side of Chicago. So we have come a long way. We've made great strides. I'm very proud and privileged to be involved with the First Tee. We are very, very successful because of the extraordinary work of so many people who are involved with our mission. And that mission is to impact the lives of young people by introducing them to the game of golf and its values. We have some 200 chapters around the country and the world. We're in all 50 states, as it said. We have reached 4.7 million young people. We have reached some 4,000 elementary schools in 500 districts, and we're just starting. We really have a focus to reach young people who otherwise did not have access to the game, and consistently about 50% of our young people have been from diverse backgrounds versus 16% in all golf, 35% have been girls versus 25% in golf, and so we're very pleased to be above those statistical numbers. We just launched 2 weeks ago our Phase 4 objectives. And there we are going to now try and reach another 5, 6, 7, 8 million young people over the next 5 years. We're just going to double up on everything that we do. I'm called the chief evangelist of the First Tee, and when my colleagues hear me toss out numbers like that, many of them just want to kick me and bring me back to life. But I said, you know, we have to reach these young people because of the magnitude of the impact that we're having. Here in Tampa, we have one of our most successful chapters. It's really about the young people, isn't it? It's really about the young people because they represent 100% of our future. And when you think about it, if you can introduce the game of golf, the values associated with the game of golf, so that these young people have that grounding, they're going to be very different in their lives. People say, what gives me the greatest joy about what I do? It's the emails from a parent who says, but for the first tee, my child would be here versus there. It's the email from the young person who says, thank you, Mr. Barrow, for what you do, but it's really the chapter that has done it for him. It's the email from the teacher or the person who's part of their go-to team that says this young person, boy or girl, is very different because of the first tee. I'm always reminded of this young man who, his words not mine, he'd be standing on a street corner, still looking up, wondering where he was going to go, because that's where many of his friends are right now. But yet today, he's a second or third year student at the University of Illinois studying mechanical engineering. His goal is to change the functions of the internal combustion engine. It's either going to use less fuel, no fuel, or a very different fuel. And there's the young man who doesn't want to be the Associate Justice, but the Chief Justice of the United States, who was part of the first tee in Oklahoma. And the young lady who's now an associate producer for ABC Sports and ABC News, and she's sending a lot of the broadcasts all across the world on the weekends and all the news that ABC broadcasts, and she started at the first tee of Sacramento. So I'm very honored and privileged to be recognized, but I really accept this on behalf of all the people who believe that the most important investment we can make in our society is in young people. Because why? Because they represent 100% of our future. When you think about what golf can do, and this is why golf has to be open, it has to be equal, it has to be available because of what it can do, because of the character education that is so grounded in the game of golf and so inherent in the game of golf. That is what is so essential about why we want to work so hard to not just be accepting 50% of our young people being from diverse backgrounds, but over the next 5 years grow that to 55 to 56%. And why we want to grow our girls from 35% to 45%, because we want them to have those opportunities. Consciously, we will work to do that. This is an honor and a privilege because it's so important work to make sure that the young people have had the opportunities that this game can give them. Because we know if we do provide those opportunities for them, they will be in a different direction. They will be better served. They will understand the opportunities before them, and they will have the skill set to accomplish those objectives. So I am called the Chief Evangelist of the First Tee. I can talk for 20 more minutes, but I can't because I only get 7. But I do want to say that this is extraordinary recognition for me. I was on a radio show today and they said, well, what does it mean? And I said, I don't think it has really hit me yet. And I have to say, I don't think it has. Because it's extraordinary to be recognized by your peers or individuals who recognize the work that you're fortunate enough to do in life. Many of my colleagues are here tonight, and colleagues all across the country have recognized this night for me. But I just want to say thank you to them, and thank you to all of you and to the board for recognizing the great work of the First Tee, for doing so in a year when I can be aligned with my father, which is always a special. And I just want to say this is a very humbling, gracious, and wonderful experience for me. And thank you very much for recognizing the little work that I've done, but the extraordinary work that so many others have done. Thank you so much.